Howdy folks, Texas Grebner here with Texas Grebner Outdoors. New videos every Saturday, so if you don't want to miss out on your Texas Grebner Outdoors Saturday morning cartoon awesomeness, make sure to click subscribe and check my channel every Saturday for new videos. I love reading your comments and I really do appreciate all of you that watch. Make sure to check that notification box too, because you never know what I'm going to throw out at you and you don't want to miss any of the action. Some of you may not even know what this is, but this is a cassette tape. This particular cassette tape I found in my old keepsake drawer when I went back home to my mom and dad's house, and it was one of my absolute favorites as a child. It is Peter Capstick's African Campfire Conversation, and it is basically a podcast that was recorded well before podcasts were ever a thing, between Ken Wilson of Sportsman on Film and the legendary hunter and author Peter Capstick. And so I got permission to do a digital transfer of the cassette that I have to give you guys an audio sample of the actual production. And if you want to buy the whole thing, I'll put a link down in the description to where you can actually get the CD version of it. But Sportsman on Film has been gracious enough to give me 5 minutes of the audio to actually inspire you guys to maybe look into this. So if you do order, make sure to let them know where you found out about the audio. That way maybe they'll let me give you some more samples. So I hope you guys enjoy, because this was one of my absolute favorite childhood cassettes.
So sit back and relax as I re-ask Peter many of the questions I asked him around campfires in Botswana and South Africa. Peter, why did you become a professional hunter in the first place?
Oh, Ken, sheer desperation, I think. You know, I suppose I've always maintained the personal stance in life of being a professional small boy. Ever since I was a kid, I always dreamt of Africa. I've always had a thing for it. I really don't know what it's all about, but I've always wanted, because my fondest wish was to someday live in Africa, and of course in those days I reckon Tarzan and his pals. But fortunately I went through the normal series of events of young Americans, and I ended up on Wall Street as a stockbroker after school in the Army. And I did that for about 5 years, Ken, and it just seemed to me, with all the slush and the strikes and the muggings and that tinfoil society, there had to be something somewhere that was better than this. So you might say I sort of chopped loose the mooring line and went adrift. And I've been a wayfaring stranger ever since, but my home is Africa and always will be.
Now you went down to Central and South America first, I believe.
Yeah, I was completely inexperienced in Africa. So I just second that. Giovoni Fagalamanzi frutti now. Oh, okay. Now you put it on, don't get those sparks on you, man. Yeah, I started off down in Central America and British Honduras, hunting jaguar. I was a part owner of a fishing camp in Nicaragua, the San Juan River, where we had tremendous tarpon fishing, snook, that sort of thing. I was in Costa Rica for a bit, spent really quite a long time in both Brazil and the central Xingu Basin, where it was a very, very wild area. It still is, with plenty of genuinely wild Indians. Just a legend to put one of those 5-foot arrows through you. But that they had a lovely three-sided club that they'd happily chop you into mush with. In fact, Ken, you used to have to sleep down there. We used to sleep on islands for protection, and we used to post guards at night. These chaps, they say, we're pretty wild. Under your mosquito netting of your hammock, you'd have to stretch a very tight rope, so these guys wouldn't try to club you to death in your hammock. And a couple of people's lives were saved by that rope stopping the blow from one of these clubs. But that really was a little more than I had in mind, and it was frankly too hairy, Ken. You had to fly in 800 miles to land on a sandbar in the Xingu, and there were no radios in the aircraft, and I think that was probably the scariest part of the whole thing.
So it sounds like jaguars were the least of your worries.
Well, as a matter of fact, they were sort of peripheral to the whole situation. Then I was a while down in Argentina. I had a lot of fun there, opening up the bird shooting primarily. The fishing had been discovered, I think, by North America at that point. But the bird shooting, that's, of course, phenomenal dove and pigeon. Then you had the upland game shooting, which nobody knew about, the copetonas and the martinetas, these desert various grouse types, if you will. And of course the wildfowling, waterfowl, ducks and geese, Magellan geese, and quite a lot of different flavors you don't get up in here in the American flyways, or I should say back home. You do get down there. It's really excellent shooting. And you get red stag in the mountains, lots of wild boar. So,
then you moved on to Africa, the Call of the Wild.
yeah, I in fact did go back to New York and started a travel agency based on sending clients on specialized shooting and fishing trips. And of course, somebody just had to go and check all these places out and make sure they're all right, right? I did that for a while, and I sold the corporation to another major corporation for whom I worked in more or less the same capacity. And but eventually, after another couple of years of traveling as a professional safari client, I found myself back behind the desk again. I thought, well, this is a bit self-defeating. So I repacked my bag, I took my ball of string and my jackknife and my pet frog, and I took off for Africa.
And where did you eventually become licensed as a PH?
Quite close to where we're sitting right at the moment. In Zambia. Was my first professional licensing. I also got involved, which we can talk about a little later, in elephant cropping, but in terms of taking clients on safari as a professional hunter, I had sufficient contacts and was known to be of sufficient reliability, at least in someone's opinion, that I didn't have to go through the 1 to 3 years, which is the normal apprenticeship to gain a professional hunter's license in Africa today. Now, of course, things have changed a great deal, Ken. I was probably the last, as I can think of, the last non-African, who got under the door when it was still possible to get a license. For you to decide today you want to become a professional hunter, you can forget it. Unless you're born there, and even then, it's very, very difficult.
Yeah, I can only think of about 2 or 3 guys. Now, as a professional hunter, how did you size up a client when you first met him?
You're asking me shop information.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's the best I can do for right now, copyright being what it is, and simply out of respect for artists and creators, I'm not going to rob someone of their ability to make a profit, but I wanted to take time and inspire you guys to look into this because it's something that's so important to me and shaped me in so many ways listening to this as a child that I wanted to make sure that I at least was able to expose you to it so that it did not get lost and overshadowed in the mists of time and the internet, now that we're in a cyber age. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. As always, God bless all my sportsmen of America. Join the NRA to protect our rights. Please check out my friends over at SOETacticalgear.com. Thank you very much to those of you involved in law enforcement and those of you serving in the military. And thanks for watching Texas Grabner Outdoors.